But Lieutenant Dan is a key figure in Forrest Gump. And so his life in the movie, he's not a real person, but I'm sure there were people like him. His life has a couple different phases. So in the beginning, when he enters the story, he is a lieutenant, and he's in the Vietnam War. And do you remember the thing about his family is what? What was the thing about his family? Someone in his family had fought and died in every major American war. That was the thing. And so he knew his destiny was to fight and die in the Vietnam War. That was his destiny, and he was going to make it happen. He was a man in control of his fate. And then, in a firefight, he almost died, and Forrest Gump rescued him from dying. And Forrest, carries him out while Lieutenant Dan's yelling at Forrest Gump, "Don't save me, I'm supposed to die." Okay, and Forrest saves him anyway, and then he loses his legs, and he doesn't know what to do with the rest of his life. He gets into this depression. The plan that he had for his life has been ruined. You can't see in this picture, I'll show you in just a minute, but he has no legs at this point, so he's super depressed. He gets addicted to drugs. He becomes like this hippie kind of guy. But then he eventually makes it back to a relationship with Forrest Gump. And in that relationship, Forrest takes him onto a shrimping boat in Louisiana, and they try to become shrimp fishermen, even though neither of them have ever done this before and don't know how to do it. And so how much shrimp do they catch at first? Nothing. They catch like a toilet seat that was in the bayou or something. But then there's this crazy moment where Lieutenant Dan has a fight with God. There's this moment where they are out on this shrimping boat and a hurricane hits. And they decide to stay out in the hurricane because Lieutenant Dan is so mad at God, he just wants to fight God until he dies. You ruined my life, God. Lieutenant Dan doesn't even really necessarily believe God exists. I don't know, but yet he wants to fight with God at the same time. And so this is an iconic image. Go watch this scene. Just YouTube it or something. He's on the top of the mast, just screaming at God into the darkness. And somehow their ship survives the hurricane. And what happens after that is all the other ships, all the other shrimping boats have been destroyed in the hurricanes. They're the only one left. And so they catch a ton of shrimp and they become really rich and famous and all this stuff. But the point is not that they become rich and famous. This is a picture of him without the legs. And this is the moment, there's a scene in here after that storm, after that battle that Lieutenant Dan has with God, where Lieutenant Dan finds peace. He finds peace with God. He recognizes he sort of spent all his angry energy and he gets it out, and God is big enough to take it. And Lieutenant Dan comes to a place where he says, you know what? I was never in control of my life to begin with. It was always him. And the rest of his life, he's just going to live that way with his hands open. This is what we're going to see today, very, very similar to this, happen with Jacob. It's what we're going to see happen with Jacob in the second half of his life.